What's up everybody, how's it going? It's Burke, aka Dansweight here, and welcome back to this bonus episode of the Final Fantasy IX Attack Only challenge. We spent 9 episodes going through the entire game and beating every single storyline boss and completing the challenge. But before I could wrap this up, there was something kind of itching away at me, and that is, of course, Ozma. I couldn't leave the challenge without thinking about whether or not I could defeat Ozma using the attack only, no magic stones restriction. And so for this bonus episode, I am going to jump back in one more time, try to defeat Ozma, and well and truly wrap up this challenge and move on from Final Fantasy IX Attack Only. Let's do it. As I said in the previous episode, I think so far at least, out of all of the Final Fantasies that I've tried with Attack Only, Final Fantasy IX has been the easiest. It's relatively forgiving, the bosses don't have a huge amount of HP, you have some pretty good accessories that allow you to really minimize and deal with elemental damage, and later on you are able to heal your party quite significantly as a result of these elemental exploits. And so, to be honest, in Final Fantasy IX there's not that many difficult battles anyway, and there's not that many post-game battles to fight in terms of boss battles anyway either. Hades was supposed to be one of the ones I was potentially going to share as like a bonus episode as well, like include it together with something like this. But as you guys saw, Hades got wiped out first time, and it was basically easier than like Transkuja or Necron or any of those guys. So with Hades gone as well, there was basically only Ozma that I was interested in challenging. I know there's a few more kind of individual enemies that I could do, but I didn't want to kind of overbloat things too much. But Ozma to me felt like a must. At the end of the day, it's the main super boss of the game. It's definitely worth trying and seeing if you are able to defeat it using the restrictions in this challenge. And so the first thing I did when I completed the game was to obviously think ahead about Ozma and if there was anything I could do. Now, one thing I remembered from the time I spent a few years back going and defeating Ozma for the first time was that there are numerous things that you need to do in the build-up to Ozma to access him and to give yourself the best chance of defeating him. And one of those things was the Friendly Creatures side quest. The way that works is throughout the world, in different locations, you encounter these friendly creatures and you're supposed to give them different things. And if you manage to give them that and you complete it for all of them, you literally gain the ability to attack Ozma. And so as you might imagine, this is going to cause a massive problem. So one of the first things I did was to go online and ask my followers on Twitter, what is the deal with this particular situation? Because I've never tried to fight Ozma without doing this before. Originally, my whole thing was to not even try Ozma because I just don't like the build-up necessary to even fight him, and he just felt pretty much impossible. Like just like a fleeting kind of momentary thought about it, I thought it's just not worth it. I'm going to spend like hours to get to him, and it's going to be pretty impossible anyway, it's just not worth it. And then I thought I need to also find out about this particular criteria, because then at least I can tell people, look guys, it's impossible anyway, there's no point getting into this. And so I asked people, I was like, what happens if you don't do the Friendly Creature side quest? Can you even fight Ozma in an Attack Only challenge? And they informed me pretty promptly. I think I had about 7, 8, 9 people that responded. And the general consensus was definitely no. And so if you're looking at it from the most kind of objective technical standpoint, no, you cannot beat Ozma in an Attack Only challenge in Final Fantasy IX, because in an Attack Only challenge you can't complete the Friendly Creature side quest because you need to go into the item menu to give them items, and if you don't do that then you literally are not capable of even attacking and dealing damage using your attacks against Ozma. And so it's completely a non-starter. Now, part of me, when I found this out, was relieved, because as I say, I didn't want to do the extra legwork to get to Ozma anyway, and I was ready to kind of just say, hey guys, you know, it's been 9 episodes, we've done Necron as well, Ozma's impossible because of this restriction, thank you for watching, see you next time. But then, I thought to myself, that's kind of a lame way to end. I don't want to do that. Yes, I know, technically, because you can't do the friendly creatures, you can't even hit him. But hey, what if we just pretended that that wasn't a thing, and we just unlocked Ozma, we did the friendly creature side quest, we kind of bent the rules to allow ourselves to at least fight Ozma, what would even happen if you were able to hit Ozma in the fight. So for you guys, I have one final treat in this video, and that is going to be an attack only, no magic stones fight against Ozma. And the reason I decided to do this was because I still had my save file from a few years back in which I made a return to Final Fantasy IX to fight Ozma for the first time. And when I realized I still had those save files, I thought, this is excellent, I already have a ready-made save, I can just fire up the fight, get any equipment that I need for the fight, and just basically try it out without having to deal with anything else. And so it was a perfect chance to give Ozma a try and see if it's even possible in an attack-only challenge if you ignore the fact that you need to do the friendly creatures quests in order to be able to hit it in the first place. And so, my friends, as an epilogue to this series, let's fight Ozma. One last ride in this series. We have our level 99 party ready once again. The base file here is the one that I used to defeat Ozma. I had lower levels than that, but I hacked level 99 stuff back in to give myself a chance. And so now we can have a look at the setup. One advantage of using this particular file is that I have a few extra toys that I didn't bother to get in my attack only file. So I have a few things like Dragon's Hair, I have the Excalibur, I have the Ultima weapon, and these are things that I didn't need for the main story, and so I didn't get them. But for Ozma, obviously, and this save file, these are things I also have at my disposal. And so if you look at the stats here, they look very similar to what you saw in the fight against Ozma, and we will see if it's enough to try and potentially take down the main Superboss of Final Fantasy IX. So let's look at the fight a little bit. Ozma, once again, is another one of these enemies that doesn't have a supremely high amount of HP. It's 55,535 HP. If you can really get your damage up, that's not really a huge amount of HP. It's basically like 3 or 4 rounds of attacks if everybody gets a hit at their maximum potential. And so the low HP was one of the first things, of course, that is worth drawing attention to, and one of the things that definitely makes it a lot more possible. Now, other than that, one of the other things that I think is quite interesting is that it's one of the few enemies that has an attack that does shadow damage. And so if you're able to absorb shadow damage, one of its attacks, instead of being devastating, ends up being a heal for you. And so that's one of the more important things, I think, for this particular fight as well. And so those are two of the main things. And the rest of the stuff is what you are going to remember from the fight against Necron. Because as luck would have it, Ozma is also weak to wind. And so we can again have Amarant be an attacking powerhouse against it. And so the setup is relatively similar to the fight against Necron because we're at level 99 once again. Get close to trance, be level 99, exploit the wind damage, make sure everybody can heal themselves as much as possible, but for Ozma as well, make sure we can absorb the shadow damage. So let's get going with my first attempt against Ozma and see how things went down. Okay, here we go. The infamous spinning ball of doom that is Ozma. Surely not. Attack only, no magic stones. We have no business defeating Ozma here. Again, if you look at the trance gauges, we are ready, but it comes in with a death immediately. There's not a lot we can do against that, unless we get lucky and it misses. But it does not. So that's one of us immediately gone. 5,200 from Amarant, that's good damage. Critical or trance damage is going to be good. Now, this guy does spam Curaga quite a lot, and the Curaga is powerful here. 6,500. So even Amarant, who hits very hard, gets out-healed by the Curaga. And so that's going to be quite a big factor. How many times is it going to use it? And then comes Curse. Curse is the move. So you thought that Grand Cross was bad. Curse is almost just as bad, potentially worse because it does a huge amount of damage. So status effects wise, if you look at Freya, she's in a lot of trouble. But Zidane and Amarant, to be fair to them, have done very well. So it's a myriad of negative statuses, but it also carries with it a huge amount of damage. So it's another one of those, it's going to be a pure RNG situation. are you going to get away with not taking a huge amount of damage, and how often is it going to use it? So that's one of the biggest troubles in this fight. And so we got wiped out pretty damn fast on attempt 1. We go straight back in for attempt number 2. I felt like Curse came in a bit too quickly there. So let's see if we can last a bit longer in the fight this time. We don't go for the healing, if you notice. This time I'm going for a bit more of an all-out attack method to start here. So I've got the Excalibur, I've got like the dragon hair and all that kind of stuff. I think Amaran is the only one that can heal himself in this group at the moment. Zidane survives, but it's big damage there, and a critical from Steiner. It's a good start. And that was a mistake. Mini being used on everybody. This is a game over. Forget it. Move on. I mean, so far, we haven't really been particularly close yet. Sign off with death is just rude. Again, it attacked before any of us got a turn. We haven't really been able to exploit any trance. 5,400 is good. 3,400 not as good. 9,000 so far. 13,500. But so you can see, I mean, 13,500 from 3 attacks is massive. But then Curse comes in very quickly. Look at the damage as well. It's just mega damage, like 3,600 odd. But once again, 2 of my characters got away with it, and they both went into trance here. See how we do? We do need to heal up because there's always big moves coming. I mean, Meteor, for example. There it is. And this is a pure RNG test, of course. And we failed. So, not looking particularly good here. And so then began the grind. It was a lot of attempts here. Basically just back to back, just trying to fight as much as I could. Again, I maintained a bit more of an attacking outlook than I did against Necron. I really wanted to see if I could push through the damage here. And so I didn't have as many healing options as before. But I did have Amaran who could potentially heal himself and Zidane. So that was generally what I went for most of my attempts against Ozma. So now it's time for a little bit of an interlude where I give you guys a little bit more information about the battle and 1 or 2 tweaks that I made to increase my chances of victory. So my first kind of sets of attempts were not that great, and I didn't think I was getting particularly close. And what ensued was about an hour and a half of attempts to see if I could defeat Ozma. And one of the main reasons obviously we were dying is because we were seeing moves like Curse quite frequently, and some of the moves that it could do that were a little bit more favorable, we basically weren't seeing them properly. And so it was time for me to dive in a little bit and find out some more about how Ozma actually works. And so in the background, while you're seeing some more of my attempts here, I'm going to read you guys some information from the Final Fantasy Wiki, because Ozma's battle script is quite complex and he has a lot of moves. And so like reeling them all off the top of my head, like I didn't learn it well enough to know that. But I decided to at least read you guys some of the relevant information from the wiki instead. So, it says, Ozma will not waste a turn using an elemental attack that will be absorbed by all party members. In brackets, nullifying the element still makes Ozma use it. Or use status attacks if all targets are immune to it. Thus, being immune to Ozma's other attacks increases the likelihood it will use Meteor. And so that's the kind of more smart side of Ozma's battle script that a lot of us probably don't know too much about. It tries not to waste turns on things that it doesn't think will help it to win the battle, so that's very clever. Now, it goes on to say, Ozma has a unique battle script. When its ATB bar is filling up, i.e. when it's not in the middle of casting an ability, any command the party targets at Ozma will fill its ATB bar up, and Ozma will execute its turn before the player's command. Now, from the first attempts we've seen so far, a couple of things we haven't seen. One is level 4 Holy, which is, of course, deals holy damage to all party members whose levels are a multiple of 4, but more importantly, Ozma will only use level 4 Holy if the party has a member susceptible to it. And so this was one of the first adjustments that I made, which genuinely made a difference in the fight. Everybody was at level 99, and that was my general logic going into it, just obviously make everybody as strong as possible. But by pulling one character back to level 96, you are able to make sure that there is a chance of level 4 Holy being used instead of a more dangerous move. And that's exactly what we want, because Holy, we can either completely nullify it, or we can absorb it. So one major adjustment as a result of learning the fight better was to give someone level 96. I decided to make that Freya because she was the weakest one anyway of the bunch, and so she had kind of the least to lose, and so she went down to level 96 for subsequent attempts. It also has the move level 5 Death, so technically you could sacrifice one of your party members one time and make them level 95 or something, but I decided that I needed everybody alive as much as possible, so I made sure that no one was a multiple of 5. I felt like that would still be the safer option for me. And so continuing to read some of the information, Ozma chooses its actions depending on whether its turn count is an odd or an even number. In the former case, it will use either Flare Star, Meteor, Doomsday, Flare, Holy, Death, or Absorb MP. If its turn count is an even number, it will employ either Curse, Mini, Level 4 Holy, Level 5 Death, Curaga, or Esuna. So most importantly here, if its turn count is an even number, it can choose between using Curse, Mini, or Level 4 Holy. Now, Mini is a devastating move, as you've seen. It doesn't kill you, but it might as well do. And Curse is basically the worst move that we can deal with. And so anything that can replace Curse that doesn't harm us anywhere near as much, like level 4 Holy, is going to be a good shout. And so that was one of the biggest changes that I was able to make in my setup. Some more information: the probability with which Ozma will counter with using Curaga on itself is inversely related to its HP, and ranges from approximately 13% to 50%. So yeah, towards the end of the fight you are going to see it spamming Curaga a lot, and that's another reason I really basically wanted to be level 99. With that much Curaga spamming, in order to keep out damaging it, you should be hitting it very hard, otherwise you're just not going to be able to get through. And so the final ingredient here is to do with Ozma's Doomsday move. Doomsday is a really interesting one because it hits incredibly hard, but there's two aspects of it that are very important. The first is that Doomsday also damages Ozma himself, which is very important. And the second one is that depending on what you have equipped, you are able to nullify or absorb the damage from Doomsday. Now, one of the ways to do it is by using a pumice piece. We already had one pumice piece, and you could have got a second one. Normally you're supposed to combine those two to get something else, but for example for this challenge we don't need the result of that combination, so we're able to have two separate pumice pieces. We can also use equipment like the ninja gear as well, and so that was also one of the main things that I did in order to increase my chances of success against Ozma. So let's start to put it all together, and then I will start to move things along a little more now that you've seen like a bunch of attempts. Level 99 for everybody, but level 96 for Freya, so that we can bait it out into using level 4 Holy. Making sure you have some kind of shadow absorption for as many people as possible. That's the second one. Have as many people as you can close to trance, so that you increase your chances of getting into trance, of course, for the fight. And finally, in terms of healing, I decided to not go too all out here. I wanted to rely on damage for Steiner as well, so he had the Excalibur. I upgraded to the Ultimate Weapon for Zidane, and Amarant can also continue to use his Kaiser Knuckles for wind damage, and he can potentially heal himself with a ribbon as well. So those were the general things we put together, and once again it was an exercise in trying to prepare as much as possible in order to reduce your reliance on RNG. So now we can pick things back up and see what happened after a lot more attempts and slightly better preparation. I had repeat attempts for about an hour and a half against Ozma, and then I finally had a breakthrough. Have a look at this next attempt. Alright, here we go. One last time, my friends. Final Fantasy IX. Attack Only. Ozma. Let's go. Opens up with a flare. A good move for us. Amaran can instantly heal himself from this. Not quite in trance, unfortunately. 5,200. 4,100, that's pretty good. 4,200. Now I'm waiting to see what he does. Eventually in my attempts I decide to go a little bit more slow and just kind of wait to see what he does and then try to kind of stack all of my attacks back to back. 7,500 healed there. Good heal from Amaran. Curse came in very early, so this was looking like already a bad attempt. Stein is basically finished here. He's done. But we do have all three of these guys in trance now, so they're going to hit hard. But their HP is not looking particularly great. Okay, Amaran can heal himself. But already another turn, and then Holy comes in. Let's see who this is going to hit. It's quite rare to see Holy. Guarded by Zidane. 7,000 damage, so we are seriously hitting hard now. 6,600. Okay, big heal there from Amaran. So we're staying in the game. Level 4 Holy. This was also a good RNG roll here. Really helped us stay in the game. Freya, you saw, healed as well. So now all of my party is healed. So normally Amaran wouldn't have been able to heal Freya. But that Holy coming in there made a big difference. What's next? Curaga, fine. Let's see how long we can avoid Curse for here. We still have plenty of trance moves. And it's kind of funny that Steiner is still alive here. Steiner just refuses to die. He's just that guy. Flare Star comes in. It's going to hurt. So once again I go back to healing myself here. But it missed both Amaran and Freya. Obviously I couldn't have known that. I had to kind of prep it in advance. But if I'd have known, I would have switched it to attack Zidane instead. Another Curaga. But thankfully when we're in trance we can basically cancel out these Curagas. But the trance is going to run out soon for Amaran. Mini Stein is still going at it here. But that was a wasted turn from Amaran. Another Curaga. It's really spamming him now. 7,900. It's really hard to break down. Yes, it has 55,000 HP, but if it spams like that many Curagas, it's basically more like 100,000 by the end of the fight. But we're still basically at full health almost here, as Amaran's trance runs out. But we must be getting close here. Doomsday finally comes in. This is the move that I'd been wanting to see. Shadow Absorption counts for so little, for so much of this game. But then, Doomsday is the one special move where if you do have Shadow Absorption, this happens. And remember, Ozma damages himself here as well. Look at that. So Ozma does a big chunk of damage to himself and Zidane just says thank you very much and finishes the job. So we beat Ozma with attack only, no magic stones, and the entire party survives. Even Mini Steiner was there at the end of it all. Amazing. And so yes, for anyone wondering what about Ozma, the true, most technically correct answer is that you can't even fight this guy in attack only. But if you're willing to put a few things to the side, you can actually defeat Ozma under these restrictions as well. Of course, mostly it's all about the RNG rolls, but a mixture of things like having the level 99 prepped, having the trances prepped, having the right weapons, so obviously the extra wind damage from Amaran, having the right accessories to absorb shadow damage, and also to allow for a little bit of healing as well. All of that, plus obviously a big dollop of luck and RNG, and you have yourselves a victory. And so with that, I can truly and comfortably wrap up this series. I hope you guys have enjoyed this adventure. I had a really good time jumping back into Final Fantasy IX and pushing it a little bit more to its limits, learning more about the game as I played as well. It's also been good as a comparison point against some of the other games, and definitely, I mean, there's no two ways about it. It was definitely the easiest one out of all of the Final Fantasies that I've done with Attack Only so far, and I didn't even use Magic Stones. Like, if I used Magic Stones as well, then I think it would have been like even more easy. So that's also part of the story, you know, finding out how easy it is to do this in these games. And Final Fantasy IX in general, I think it's a pretty easy and forgiving game anyway compared to some of the other Final Fantasies. And I think the ease with which you could generally do it attack only, even without the Magic Stones, I think further kind of enforces that point. But all said, I still had a very good time, and it was nice to make this series for you guys. Thank you all for supporting it so much for the entire duration of it. Thank you for all the likes, all the nice comments. I've had a lot of people like just tell me that they're really still continuing to enjoy the attack only material, so I'm very glad. Thank you to everybody on Patreon who's signed up during this series, or who's already been signed up and generally supporting these series. They take a long time to make, a long time to record, edit, voiceover, and put together, and so having that support on Patreon, it really helps to continue to fund these series when there's so many projects that have to compete for my time. And as a full-time content creator, obviously I have to try my best to find that kind of nice mix of projects that bring what I need to the channel that I'm also going to enjoy doing at the same time. And I really do enjoy this material, but because it simply just takes so long to do, it does need more support than like an average LP series would. And so thank you guys so much for signing up on Patreon and supporting the series and continuing to view and like and just generally show love to the content. So I'm going to sign off from Final Fantasy IX Attack Only. Hope you guys had a good time. Not really sure where we go from here. The Attack Only format, in general on the channel, content from Final Fantasy VII to Final Fantasy X is always the most popular. And I feel like the second I'm going to step outside of that for Attack Only, if we do, say, Final Fantasy VI or some other Final Fantasy, at the moment we're kind of at that threshold of views where it's sustainable, but it's kind of at the lower limit. And I feel like if I go to something like Final Fantasy VI or Final Fantasy XII or something like that, I feel like we're going to slip under, and it's going to turn into this thing where, again, the effort is going to be the same as 7, 8, 9, and 10. But unfortunately, you know, the return on the channel is just not going to make it worth it for me to do. That said, either I'll still just try it anyway and hope to be proven wrong and just give it a go, or I will see if there's some other type of interesting content that I can do with some of the other games. So I think my kind of the new fortnightly voiceover style series, I want to continue doing that. I'm enjoying doing that format. I do enjoy the different style of content and the different kind of editing voiceover process, being able to share some more in-depth information about challenges, that kind of thing. But I want to kind of take some time to think about what would be the best project to do for this kind of slot on the channel. So we're going to have a little bit of a break from that type of content. There's still a lot ongoing on the channel anyway. And so once I decide what I do next, I'm definitely going to be looking forward to sharing it with you guys. And I think it's a good idea to pay attention to the community page in case I do like a poll or something, just to generally ask what people are more interested in. And so with that, I am going to sign off. Thank you guys so much once again for watching the series. And now we can categorically say that you can beat Final Fantasy IX using attack only with no magic stones. Take care, guys.